Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to a little mid-year Q&A video. The last time I did a Q&A video was, I believe, in January. It was the beginning of this year, and I feel like it's nice to do them about every 6 months or so because I start to get messages with similar questions, and then it's just fun to kind of tickle that itch of curiosity, so to speak. If anybody has any questions that they've been meaning to ask or they've wanted to know, this is the perfect platform to go ahead and answer those. So I asked on Instagram this morning whether anyone had any questions that they would like for me to answer, and I got quite a few. So I'm going to go through them. I have my phone with me right here as usual, so that I can go through and choose some. I'll try to choose the ones that were most repeated and then maybe just choose a few fun random ones, and we'll go from there. So let's jump right in. I had a lot of questions this go around about children, specifically questions like how was it going from 1 child to 2 children? There was another question that said, was the transition more difficult going from 0 to 1 child? Or was it more difficult going from 1 to 2 children? Lots of questions like that. So let me just touch on that a little bit here. And then we'll talk about another question relating to kids that keeps coming up as well, which is, are you planning on having baby number 3, a 3rd child? So as far as 0 to 1 or 1 to 2, the hardest thing I've ever done in my life is go from 1 child to 2 children. That was by far the hardest transition our family has ever been through, ever. It was extraordinarily difficult. There were a lot of reasons for that. One of them, of course, is that Nora hadn't even turned 2 years old when we had Colin. So I had an infant and still a very little child. And even to this day, Colin's just about 8 months old now, and Nora's 2.5, and they're still both really young. But going from giving Nora all of our time and attention to then having a newborn baby who needs to be nursed all the time and held all the time, and she still needs a lot of one-on-one time and attention, and they're both in diaper, like, it was really challenging. As the months have gone on, it has definitely gotten easier. I will say that it has definitely gotten easier. It's still extremely hard. Also, being pregnant with Colin and caring for Nora, it was so hard. I was exhausted. My body was exhausted. A lot of times with a second child, a woman's body pops more quickly. That definitely happened with my second pregnancy. I just carried bigger, I gained more weight, I was just more pregnant more quickly. And so all of that, plus running after a very small child and growing another one, just not easy. Lately, in the past few weeks, even just the past few weeks, truly, there has been this shift where I think it's starting to get a little bit easier. Nora is becoming more independent and less needy, constantly, and Colin is crawling around, and so the two of them are beginning to interact, and I have heard from so many people that that will be the key to everything being more easy, will be when the two of them can play together. So we are getting there to where they're actually interacting, and Colin can crawl around and play, and he's starting to pull up, and so they kind of play together some. So that's that. Going from 0 to 1 children was definitely a big shift for sure, but it was 2 adults with 1 child, and going from 1 child to 2 children is suddenly each adult is caring for a child, and so then when Riley's off at work, it's 1 adult caring for 2 children, and that's just really hard. It's just really hard. To piggyback off of that question, there were many questions. Are you thinking about baby number 3? Do you want to get pregnant again? Are you hoping to have a 3rd child? All those kinds of questions. To answer very succinctly, no. We, at this point, feel like our family is complete with our daughter and our son, our family of 4. We don't have any active plans to get pregnant and have another baby. Of course, plans change, and sometimes things happen, and you hear about it all the time. So we totally reserve the right to change our minds, or if we were to have a surprise, we would welcome and love that surprise so very much. But as far as what we are planning on, we are not planning on having any more children at this point. We definitely feel like our family's complete, and we're ready to just grow as a family and enjoy, you know, our 2 kids that we have. And then, you know, if our minds change down the road, that's fine. But I don't get the feeling that they're going to change. I think we're both pretty happy with the 2 that we have, and neither of us are super interested in revisiting, you know, trying to conceive and pregnancy and birth and postpartum and newbornhood and all of those kinds of things. I think we're feeling good to move ahead with the 2 kids that we have and just love the heck out of them. Loads and loads and loads and loads of questions about moving. How has the search for a new home coming? How has the search for a new home been going? Do you plan on moving? Did you put an offer in on the house you talked about in last week's vlogs? What's the status on house hunting? I mean, there's probably like 50 messages about just house hunting. So here's where we are with house hunting. We had put it on the back burner because the market is crazy right now and things are going so quickly and all of that. But we had been in touch with our real estate agent in the event that something came up that ticked a lot of our boxes, and that did happen. Last week, we went and saw a property that was in so many ways what we were looking for, and was on a large lot. It was in the community neighborhood that we have really desired to live in. Just a lot of great things about it. The house itself was definitely outdated, a fixer-upper, needed some work, but the property was wonderful, and it was situated on quite a bit of land, which is what we were looking for, and we just totally fell in love with it. So we actually put together an offer and submitted it, and it was our strongest offer that we've ever submitted. Very much, you know, like, we really want this property. We really, really want this house. And we did not get it. We did not get it. So it was very, very sad because we were really, you know, really excited about it, but something else will come up. There were between 8 and 10 offers submitted, and we were told by the seller's agent that there was only one offer better than ours, and that was the one that was selected, and then ours, we would have been next, you know, in line, so to speak. So that property we are having to say goodbye to and let go, but it was exciting to see something come on the market that was so close to what we're looking for. The one hard thing is that Riley and I have differing points of view and differing opinions on like a fixer-upper situation. To me, if it's a beautiful property, but the actual home is a bit outdated, that actually kind of excites me. I love the idea of being able to work on it and putting our own stamp on it, choose our own finishes, over time paint it, redo the floors, open up some walls. Like, that is very exciting to me. On his end, it's very overwhelming, and I don't think it's really very exciting to him at all. He would much rather move into something that feels very move-in ready as it is. And so that's been a challenge in this market because the difference financially between a home that is turnkey, move-in ready, and a home that is out of date is vast. And so then we get into conversations of, you know, there's always an opportunity cost with any property that you're buying. And for me, I would rather have a house that's more outdated on, you know, an acre or an acre and a half. And he would rather have a smaller amount of land and a nicer home. And so we don't really usually have, like, on something like big like this, we're usually pretty much on the same page, but I will say that we kind of are on different pages about this. So we're gonna have to see how it works out in the end. This house that I'm discussing that we just recently put an offer in on, I was thrilled about, and he was excited about the prospect, but not nearly in the same realm of thrill as I was, because the home was outdated. But the property was just a beautiful treed property. I could just see our kids just running and playing in the backyard. I just love that. So we still have our eyes open for, you know, the right home for us. I also got a lot of questions about, I thought you guys wanted to build. We do. Our original dream and goal for many, many years that I've been talking about for a long time would be to buy a piece of land and build a custom, like, dream home on it. It wouldn't be, you know, like 10,000 square feet or anything crazy, but just custom to our specifications and what we are looking for. So for example, to have space on property for me to work would be a huge bonus. To have a secondary guest suite, sort of like a little mother-in-law suite is what sometimes people call it, would be wonderful. especially as my parents inch closer toward retirement, being able to come and stay with us for a longer period of time and have really comfortable space where they have their own, you know, maybe a little sitting room and a bedroom and then a bathroom, of course. But many of you know, building a home right now is exorbitant. The prices are through the roof. And so if those simmer down over the next year or two, that's something we will revisit. But at this point, it makes a lot more sense from a financial standpoint to purchase a pre-existing property. And so that's more what we're focused on. This person said, we need a boat name that is themed after The Office. I'm sure this is not what you expected. Any ideas? The very first thought that comes to mind is the boat name being Pretzel Day, just because that is like, I associate that with just sheer joy, and being on a boat is very joyful. Funny enough, I named my parents' boat. My parents bought a boat, gosh, I think it's been 4 or 5 years now, and they had this dream of owning a boat their whole life, especially my dad. But my mom kind of like joined him in that, and they finally bought it, and we did a family like contest where everyone submitted lists of names, and then whichever one my parents chose, they gave that person a gift card. I think it was like $100 Amazon gift card, and I was like, I'm getting that gift card. So I submitted just so many names. They ended up naming the boat one of my suggestions, which was Changing Tides, with the idea being that they've wanted to, you know, have a boat all their life, but they were busy with kids and, you know, paying for my sister and my wedding and for our colleges and just all the things with kids. And now the tides are changing, and it's time for them to really start looking forward into like true retirement and spending time on their boat. So Changing Tides. So I do love naming boats. I'll have to think about that one a little bit more. The Office boat names. There's so many like funny ones I feel like that you could come up with. I love that. I'm going to be thinking about that all day. Someone asked, do you recommend the UPPAbaby Vista for a stroller, for a double stroller? Yes, I do. I recommend it so wholeheartedly. I totally love our UPPAbaby Vista. My sister just recently got one because she loved mine so much. Yes, it's fantastic. Someone said, what is your favorite episode of Bluey? Which Bluey is a precious children's television show. It's my favorite one of all. It's probably tied for Nora with Peppa Pig as her favorite. My favorite episode is Granny's. Nothing else to say. It's so good. Someone said, did you buy the house, or do you have any thoughts on moving, and what are you looking for in a house? So I already talked about that first part of the question, but I'll talk a little bit about the second part of the question. We are looking for plus or minus an acre lot. I'd like a piece of property that's about an acre, so would Riley. Like I said, he's willing to give up more things. I talked about that already, but just overall, these are our overall overarching things that we're looking for that are pretty non-negotiable because they cannot be changed. About an acre lot. We really want some space for the kids to run and play and have like a childhood outdoors. We have, privately a couple of neighborhoods that we really are interested in living in, and we have been pretty much exclusively looking in those neighborhoods. So we'd really like to be in one of those neighborhoods. Riley would really, really like a large garage that he could also fit his truck in. So my SUV and his truck could both fit. We are able to do that now. Like if we're having a hailstorm or something, we can do that into our garage now, but it is a tight squeeze. So we're looking for a little bit of an oversized garage so that his pickup and my SUV could both be in there. We're looking for either a place or space for me to move my office onto our property rather than being here. I love having an office across town, but it would be nice for a lot of different reasons if I could have a designated space at home. And plus we would then obviously get rid of my office lease here in town, and we would be able to take that chunk of money that we're spending on the utilities and rent for this office every month and put it into our mortgage so we could pay down our home quicker, or we could use it to do renovations or whatever. I mentioned earlier we would love to have either double masters, meaning 2 master bedrooms, or have 1 master and then have the other be more like a mother-in-law suite, but 2 bedrooms that have en suites that are larger sizes that could both fit like a king or queen size bed so that we could have our bedroom and then a nice sized guest room. Nice to have things that would be amazing would be, you know, a large kitchen. I spend a lot of time in the kitchen. It's totally the heart of our home. So we would love a large kitchen area with like a big island that we could put bar stools at and have, you know, entertain people. Really for me, the biggest, any of that house stuff can be changed. You can add, if you have an acre property, you can add additions, you can build up, you can build out, you can renovate bathrooms, you can renovate kitchens. So to me, that's all secondary to having a larger lot, because that is what gives you that flexibility and freedom. So that's definitely at the top of our list, is finding a property that has a larger lot, but that's still in one of the neighborhoods that we want. So it's been tough. Things have come up, but it's definitely been tough. Someone asked, how is Weight Watchers going this time around? It is going really well, thanks for asking. I have lost, I think, 14.3 pounds. Let me pull up my app and look. 14.2 pounds since the start. So I'm pretty proud of myself for that. It has gone really, really well, and slowly but surely working my way to my goal weight. Someone asked, do you ever struggle with loss of identity in wife/motherhood? How to cope? Yes, absolutely. Much more in motherhood than in being a wife. Much more. The nature of mothering young children is such that you are giving of yourself, sacrificing sleep, sacrificing sanity, sacrificing so much, all the time. It never ends. It's 24 hours a day. And so naturally, I think there's a loss of identity. And I have said to my friends, and I've said to Riley, that there are days where I like forget who Blair is. And that's a reason why I have continued to vlog. I've continued to work. Even though I'm only up here in my office a couple of days a week, I have fought tooth and nail to keep my business going and keep my YouTube channel going, because it's a part of me that makes me feel like me. Content creating and editing and putting that up and designing shirts and marketing them and fulfilling orders and talking to customers. And I actually just had a mentorship session this morning. So being a mentor to other women who are growing their businesses, all of those parts, those different parts of what I do really make me feel like me. And so I have like guarded them with my life. And sometimes that means coming up here to my office to work after the kids are in bed and working from, 8:30 to 11 in the evening. That happens a lot. So it just is what it is. But it's the only way that I can feel like I have like an outlet for myself, is to kind of continue some of the things that I really love. There are other parts of me that right now in this season sort of have to sit on a shelf. I have a little cold. I'm sorry if you can hear that in my voice. So there's certain things that I just can't, they just can't be a major part of my day-to-day life right now, because I simply don't have the bandwidth for them. And so I put them on a shelf and just lovingly look at them, and I will revisit another time. But it's hard. It's really, really hard. I think in motherhood, I have found myself and lost myself simultaneously, and there is simultaneous joy and grief about that. Someone asked, do you still use essential oils? If so, when/how? I really don't. I really have taken a big break. A really big break. Actually, I was super into them. If you've watched my videos for a long time, there were several years there where I was really, really into the essential oils. The last time I used them was for Colin's, no, I don't even think I did that because his birth was so fast. Certainly when I was in labor with Nora, I remember diffusing them, but that was 2.5 years ago now. I actually have them stored all up here at my office because essential oils can be very dangerous to children, and the reason why I haven't used them is because after Nora was born, I was concerned about using them around a baby, because I just think sometimes people are really willy-nilly with essential oils, and they're very concentrated and very powerful, and they can be really dangerous. And so I moved them all up here to my office, and I just haven't used them quite as much, because I started doing some more research, and there were just a lot of, it made me nervous to use them around such young children. And so I still have my diffuser. Oh, it's right over here. I'd like to get back into using them, especially when I'm up here and it's just me. But they've just, that's one of the things that I like don't have the bandwidth for, and so I've just kind of put it on a shelf. I use them every once in a while, but not nearly like I was there for a while. I didn't like start hating them or anything. I just don't use them quite as much. Someone wrote, I love your vulnerability about how hard mothering can be. Is it hard to be that real and vulnerable? I appreciate that. Thank you. I actually think the opposite would be true for me. It would be really hard to pretend like motherhood is just easy breezy. Every morning you just wake up and the sun is shining, the birds are chirping, the children are behaving perfectly, everyone's sleeping all the time, nap times are perfect and beautiful, and bedtimes are perfect and beautiful, and we don't have any tantruming, and we have no issues, and there's no tears, and everyone gets along, and it's just, the house is clean and tidy, and we all just sing while we work, and there's little birds that come and visit us every day and sit on our shoulder and sing sweet lullabies. Like, that would be so hard for me to fake. Even a little bit of that would be so hard for me to fake because it's so unrealistic. And there are people who I choose intentionally not to follow online through no fault of their own, but just because they're just too glossy for me. And I am like, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I know what it's like having one baby at home, and now I know what it's like having two babies at home, and it is really hard, and it's really messy, and it is not like picture perfect at all, and I just feel like showing my real life is a lot easier. I'd so much rather just be me and be vulnerable about what really is going on than try to put on like a show that we're all doing great and everything's perfect every moment of the day, because it's not. I'm about to get a haircut and I can't wait. Look at this. This is just, it's too long. It's just too long for the summer. I'm thinking a good cut. We need, yeah, to like here. That's a lot. Okay. That's not a question. Someone said, do you still have someone work for you for Blair Lamb Design, or is it just you now? So I had an assistant and then she moved away, and then I hired another assistant and then she moved away, and so I don't have an assistant right now. And right now I've been managing it pretty well. Black Friday is always coming. Black Friday is always coming, and that time of year is extremely busy for me, so that might be a time. The second one who moved away, she moved about an hour away, so she said she might be willing to come up sometimes. So if we get towards Black Friday and I'm really needing some help, she would probably be happy to come up if I could give her like a day's worth of work, or, you know, 5 or 6 hours worth of work. That would be more worth her time. So that's the story with that. Someone said, what are your best tips for anxiety? Therapy, for sure. Medication, if you need it. One of the things when I was doing EMDR throughout my pregnancy with Colin that I learned were some regulating techniques. And one of those was going like this and tapping, and I forget exactly, she gave me a great rundown of exactly what happens when you do this, but it's just a grounding technique. It helps to settle your nervous system down. And so you can do it any which way. You know, you can do it like this, or if you just do it on the side of your legs, you know, just sitting, like if I'm sitting here, I could just do it on the side of my legs. But side to side tapping like that is very regulating for our nervous systems. So that's a really helpful one for me, that I really like. Avoiding excess caffeine is really helpful personally for me with anxiety. Getting enough sleep. Bathing and showering regularly. That sometimes falls more into like the depression category for me. When I'm feeling ultra depressed, I will neglect self-care, which I think is pretty common. But I also find that I just generally feel healthier. But none of that is important if therapy and medication aren't being talked about first. So, talk to your doctor, talk to your therapist, and figure out what that looks like for you. But looking up on YouTube, there's some fantastic videos, and looking up nervous system regulatory techniques can be really helpful. Really helpful. Let's just do a couple more questions here. If you were a superhero, what superpower would you have? Super speed. if I could have a to-do list and I could just whiz around the house and do all the laundry and mop the floors and get dinner prep ready and do all that, like that would be my dream, because that's how my head works anyway, and I'm always kind of like running a mile a minute. And so that would definitely be my dream. Someone said, what are your thoughts on the Snoo, which was the baby bassinet that we rented? For us and for Colin, it absolutely lived up to its hype. We just returned it a couple months ago. We kept it for 6 months. That's the standard time that they recommend. It was worth every penny of renting it. We loved it, loved it, loved it. I know some moms just don't love it very much because their kids don't love it, so it kind of depends on that. Someone asked, what place besides Disney do you want to take your kids? I really, really want to travel through the UK for a couple of weeks with my family. I would like to go to Ireland. I've been to England and Wales, but I'd love to go back to both places. Scotland would be incredible. I just picture Nora, because Nora's walking and running right now and Colin's not yet, just running through like green grass in the UK, and it makes my heart so happy. I just love that thought. I think she would just love a trip like that, and I think it would be nice to do something like that where there isn't a language barrier, when we would be traveling with 2 young kids to begin. And Riley's never been abroad, so I think he would just think it was so cool. And he would love all the pubs, and just, that's something that I really would like to do. So Colin is going to be a year this October. So maybe in about 3 years, 2 to 3 years time, we might think about a trip like that. It's something I have wanted to do for a very long time, and so I think that would be really cool. If you remember, we actually had a whole trip to go to France planned for when I was pregnant with Nora, but we had planned it, paid for non-refundable flights, booked a hotel, begun booking excursions, and then I got pregnant with Nora, and I just did not feel comfortable, sadly, going on a trip like that. Not for any major reason. This was back in 2019, but I had waited so long to get pregnant. It made me really nervous. I just didn't want to do it. So we canceled it. So I haven't been abroad since I studied abroad in 2012. So it's been 10 years. So that would be something I would love to do. Lots of people asking about Disney. So we have a Disney trip planned for the end of this year. I will be very honest and tell you that if we buy a house between now and the end of this year, the Disney trip is the first thing going off the budget, to free up, budget items for us to be able to buy furniture for a new house, do any renovations we would want to do, paint, new flooring, moving expenses, you know how it is. So part of the reason why I haven't talked about the trip for us that we're going on at the end of this year is because it may not happen. We're holding it very, very loosely, just knowing that Disney trips are very expensive and moving is very expensive, and if we do decide to move, if we find a home between now and the end of this year, we will almost definitely cancel that trip and use that budgeting money towards the move and furnishing and renovations and all that kind of thing. I've had several people ask, how do you handle living far away from family, or do you miss your mom and sister? Yes, oh my gosh, yes. I miss them so much all the time. Truly, like all the time. I was just talking to my mom on the phone last night and talking to my sister this morning, and we're constantly FaceTiming, and my parents were just here visiting like a week and a half ago. And then in a couple more weeks, we are going on like a beach vacation with my side of the family. So my sister and her family will be there. Of course, my mom and dad will be there. Yes, I always miss them. I will say though, I truly believe that my relationship with my family members is better and more intentional than it would be, is better and more intentional with me living across the country here than it would be if I lived up near them. The reason being, when we spend time together, it is intentional time. We plan outings, we go and do things. It's not like go stop by for an hour and then that's it. Like we spend 5 days together, just full time, spending time together, really investing each other. We're not just like scrolling on our phones, you know, that kind of thing. And that's taught me a lot about just like relational intentionality. So I always miss all of my family that's across the country, but it's not something that I sit around and pout about, because I feel like I have such special relationships with my family members. And in a lot of ways, I do think that that's because of, because I live across the country from them, and we, you know, when we get together, we're so intentional about it. More questions about Disney trip. Will you please do a packing video also? Yes, I will. If we go, I really would like to do detailed daily vlogs as much as I can do detailed daily vlogs while running after 2 kids, because by that point Colin will be walking. That's going to be chaos. I'd like to do packing, you know, videos, all the videos that I used to be able to do so easily, and then I had babies and things just are harder, but I would love to do all of that. I definitely plan on it if possible. All right, let's see if we can find a final question to answer. So I had one person say, what's your best advice for someone who's about to get married? And then another person say, what's your best advice for a first-time mom-to-be who's pregnant? So I figured I'll answer those 2 little big sister vibes questions here at the end of this Q&A video. So my best advice for someone who's about to get married is to over-communicate. Over-communicate your expectations, over-communicate your schedule, talk about what you're, you know, planning, what you want to do, every part of it, your budget, what you want to eat, what time you want to eat, all of that. If you over communicate at the beginning, your marriage will get smoother and smoother over time rather than rockier and rockier. Riley and I really see this. We've been married for 7 years this summer, and our marriage is easy these days. Like, you still have to put in effort, of course, as with any relationship. But in those early years, we really had to just have like so many long discussions and conversations and really just over communicate. And now a lot of those communications can go unspoken because we know them about each other, and it's so easy to like anticipate what the other person's question would be about something, or what, you know, that kind of thing. It just does get easier. So over communicate. There's some tools that can make this easier for you. So for us, we've always, since we were engaged, maybe not engaged, since we got married for sure, we have a shared Google Calendar. So we both put all of our stuff onto a shared Google Calendar. So that helps eliminate some of the face-to-face communication, but it's still communicating one to the other exactly what's going on, when I'm going to be up working, when I have mentorship sessions planned, when I have a haircut planned, when he has a haircut planned, when he's going out, you know, with his guys or whatever. Like, we can just look at the calendar. That is huge. Another one that's similar is Plan to Eat, which we love Plan to Eat. And that's a great one because we can use it similarly, where I do the meal planning in our family, so I can plan out our meals, and then it's not a constant conversation of what are we having for dinner? Do I need to pull meat out? Should I start dinner? If you're working late, do you want to start dinner? None of that. Riley has my login to Plan to Eat, so he just goes on, he looks on my account, he sees that we're having such and such for dinner tonight. He can make it. Oftentimes we'll make it, like, and when I come home, he's like in the process of making it. He didn't have to text me, ask me what's for dinner. It's just like one less thing to communicate about. But over communication is definitely key in the early years of marriage, and just enjoy it. People just talk about how hard and miserable marriage is, and it's the best thing I've ever done. I love being married. So don't listen to all the naysayers. Enjoy it. Have fun. It's great. Same with having a baby. If you are married or in a partnership of some kind, over communicate when that baby arrives and beforehand with your partner, with what you need, what you expect, what would be helpful. Sometimes they just truly don't know because they're, you know, not the one that just had the baby oftentimes, and so they're like, I don't know I don't know what to do. So being very communicative is extremely helpful. It will save your sanity in those early days of having a little baby. Also, enjoy your baby and trust your instincts. This is something that I could get on a major soapbox about. You do not need to listen to and follow 57 different accounts on Instagram about how to do every single thing with your child. You don't need to watch every single YouTube video about how to do every single thing with your child. You don't have to check out 50 books from the library and 30 audiobooks and talk to every single person and take all. That's too much. Trust your own instincts. If your baby needs to be nursed to sleep every single time, nurse your baby to sleep every single time. If your baby needs to be rocked to sleep, if your baby falls asleep for 45 minutes and then wakes up and needs a little extra love to get back down, you don't have to listen to every single social media account and book and whatever. Do what feels the best for you and that works for your family and that works for your child. People get so stressed out trying to follow these like routines. And if it works for you, great, that's awesome. I'm so glad you found something that works for you. And if it doesn't work for you, that's totally fine. Like, most people are not following a strict routine with a newborn because newborns don't know that there's a strict routine. And so that's something I just feel really passionate about. I think it sets moms and dads up for failure and anxiety when you're trying so obsessively to stay to some kind of routine, which does definitely work for some families, but many times it doesn't. And that's totally okay. That's okay. You can do what works for you. So trust your instincts. Trust your instincts. I am going to wrap up this video here. I think it's about 45 minutes long, which seems like a great length of a video. Thank you so much for following along with me and watching this Q&A. I hope it answered some of the questions that you may have had, specifically about having another child, about moving. That was a big one in this Q&A. So, just talked a lot. I need to get a sip of water here. Oh, actually, Liquid IV just sent me their newest flavor. It's called Tropical Punch. It's really good. It's really good. I will see you guys next Sunday. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for submitting questions if you did, and I'll see you then.